today is the day where we're finally going to be painting the Turbo LS street truck. This has been one of the biggest things left to get this thing to a fully dialed in street truck point. You know, I've taken a lot of time on everything else, the mechanicals, but aesthetics for me are always lowest on my priority list, which they shouldn't be, but they are. So fortunately, we're at a point now with the truck where mechanically it's about as dialed as we can get it. We've got our built 6-liter LS, we've got our turbo setup, our Holly, it's on flex fuel, it runs and drives great, it's got a built 4080, triple disc converter, everything inside works, we got AC, heat, sound system, we've got the suspension dialed in, we've got the ride height where we want it. However, aesthetically, it's, I would say more than a little rough around the edges. And it has been for a while. You know, I bought this truck, sheesh, has to be like 5.5 years ago now, maybe 6. Quite a while ago, to tow the LS Miata around while I worked on building my come and swap Ford. And this thing towed me all over the place, towed me to the very grand opening of the Freedom Factory. That video that Cletus made, the Miata was drifting to the Freedom Factory untouched, you know. This truck towed us there. So, you know, I've had it for a long time. And it's towed a lot, it's been a daily, it's been everything. And the goal was always to make it a turbo truck. And it's there now. It just, it needs some love. So this is the last look at it. The next time we see it, it will be freshly painted. So I'm so excited to see the transformation of what this thing looks like. Because it was never a show truck from the day I got it. So it'll be nice to see this thing looking fresh. Before we get too deep into today's video, I wanted to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Grüns. Supplements are the way, and they work. They work. It makes a massive difference when you're getting all these things, these nutrients, these vitamins, these whole food ingredients. However, it's normally pretty tricky. With the Grüns powders, the thing is, it's one, inconvenient. It's messy when I'm on a trip and, you know, I'm in the trailer trying to mix up my drink for the day and then the powder's going everywhere. It gets on everything. It's just a hassle and it makes it really hard to keep up with. Not to mention with the Grüns powders, if you drink a lot of fluids throughout the day, it's going to flow right through you before you really get a chance for your body to absorb it. And that is where Grüns comes in. That's the magic of it. It's like a twofold deal. So not only is it way more convenient because you got your daily pack of gummies. That's it. Just the one pack. No measuring, no scooping, no nothing. Just one pack. Super simple. But also the gummy form allows you to absorb all of those nutrients and minerals so much better. And they are delicious. My only gripe, which is a good gripe with these, is that it's really, you only want to eat one pack because they do a fantastic job of basically setting these up to be nearly 100% exactly of all your daily values. So you want to eat one. It's set up for you to have one, get everything you need. But hard to eat just one, admittedly. They're delicious. So if you're interested in trying them out for yourself, which I would highly recommend, just click my link down in the description to get up to 52% off. Get your feet wet, see what you think firsthand. Don't take it from me, try it. Because I am super sure you will not be disappointed. But yeah, anyway, that being said, we got a lot of work to do. So lots of exciting stuff. Let's get back to it once I finish cleaning up my mess here. So the origin story of this truck goes way back. It actually predates my Miata. I had run across Matt Happel, Sloppy Mechanics, on YouTube doing crazy stuff with stock bottom ends and proving you don't need to go crazy to build something with an LS and a turbo. So I really wanted to do a turbo LS street truck, but I had my Miata. I wanted to build a rowdier drift car. So I decided to try to apply that same logic to building a simple LS combo for it. Now it did go a little off the rails, but we got it done. And I was towing it around, it was working, but then I started running into some tow rig dilemmas because I had bought this Dodge at this trailer from a buddy of mine, and I sold my Duramax, which was a good truck, and then I had problems with the Dodge, of course, so I tried to go simple with this 730 Super Duty because it looked cool and it would kind of tick the boxes, but functionally, it rode terrible with how low it was and the power, so I decided to go all in on building a truck. Now, we needed something to tow with, so that's where the little Green Ripper comes into play. I wanted something to be able to get around with while I was building a come and swap Ford. So once we had the green truck, it was time to go all in on the Ford build, and we put the green truck to work right away. I mean, towed up to Atlanta, picked up cars with it, everything. And I sold my white dually, fully committed, got the power plant donor truck for the Fummins build, and started building it. And in the meantime, the green truck was just putting in work, taking me all kinds of places to crazy, amazing memories, like being there for the reveal of the Freedom Factory and drifting there, and going to my first ever clutch kickers, which we managed to go all the way to the finals, go one more time against Alec Onadale and get second place. You know, that the little green truck, it took me there. This thing has taken me to just so many cool memories. So I worked on it and I tinkered with it, but kept it pretty simple. Just, it was doing a job at the time. But the Fummins build was coming along, and, you know, the end game obviously was to replace the green truck as the tow rig, and it be the main tow rig. The green truck was just the temp tow rig. And once we got the Fummins done and it working, the green truck was relegated to a daily until the transmission finally went out. Now, the plan always when I got this truck, the reason I got a single cab was so that I could finally realize my Turbo LS sloppy mechanics build dreams, and now was the time. So got the 6-liter out, tore it down, started building it, went a little not sloppy mechanics, you know, put together a setup with rods, pistons, ported heads, all that jazz. And, you know, I wanted to go all in. I've been waiting a long time to do this build. So started getting the truck back together with the built engine, started building out the turbo kit, the downpipe, all of these things to finally, you know, again, accomplish this build that I wanted to do since before my LS Miata. And after some time and some effort, we had a running, driving Turbo LS street truck. So aside from the drivetrain, this truck stayed pretty much the same for a while. And then I finally got around to lowering it, putting a drag pack on it so I could put some power down. I rebuilt the transmission mount because it was so dang low now. The old one was scraping. And that's kind of how the truck stayed in that form for a while. And it just kind of, it sat, admittedly, more than I would have liked. And it shows its age, you know. It shows that it was a work truck. I mean, this thing did put in a lot of work. It took us a lot of places, you know. It towed a lot of things around. It was my daily, but it's finally time. Mechanically, we've got everything really kind of where we want it for now. It's a rabbit hole. There's a huge list of things I still want to do, but it's time to focus on some of the aesthetics. So then this thing's looking good while we do all that.
It's shiny.
Dude, it's so shiny. Dude, that's nuts. It doesn't even look like this. Oh my God, I forgot about the bed liner. So shiny.
Yeah, the bed though.
And the tailgate, dude, this thing hasn't had a freaking tailgate latch in like, it's been a long time. I don't even remember when that broke. Dang, dude, that is nuts. It's so clean, so fresh. Oh man. And I've always loved this color too. Oh yeah. Why are you doing that? Well, having it in here under the lights definitely is really what does it justice. Seeing it out without the sun really beaming down on it doesn't really quite do it justice. But man, look at that. Oh, it's absolutely insane. Before I went off to paint, I did all new LED bulbs for everything, even the fog lights. Those are fresh. The painter also did the headliner and everything, so it's got a fresh headliner. That thing's been hanging down the entire time I've owned this truck. On the bed, man, that's the biggest thing. Oh, just look at that paint. We do need to put the surge tank back in. Right now, we looped the lines before I went to paint because the bed was gonna have to come off to where it's just running the in-tank fuel pump. So I put a bunch of safeties in the tune to basically, it can't make any boost right now because it will not have enough fuel with the in-tank pump. We need the surge tank. which we have sitting here. Got a tote of all the parts that were in there since he took out the interior. A lot of random stuff ended up back behind those seats. And it's kind of crazy now that we're midway through rebuilding the Miata completely from scratch with the NASCAR motor to get this thing back from paint. There's a lot of history for me between these two vehicles. I mean, I've owned them longer than anything else that's here by a huge margin. So, gosh. Dude, oh, I'm so happy to have this truck back. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, back to it. Get this thing put back together so we can start upgrading it. When I decided to upgrade the fuel system on this truck to really be able to take it kind of to that next extreme, you know, be able to run it on E85, make more power, I debated a lot what kind of surge tank size to go with and where to put it. You know, I thought about running a smaller one that I could tuck back here behind the bed somewhere, but I realized I didn't want to limit myself and, you know, do a smaller setup that would cap us somewhere. So with this surge tank, it's a good size, and obviously it had to go in the bed here, but with the bulkhead and everything, it's pretty clean and simple, and we have pretty much nearly unlimited fuel supply. Whatever power we want to make, we've got enough fuel capability there to do it. Now, the only thing is, my plan wasn't for it to be permanently just sitting out here in the open like this. We got to fix that. Well, here's what it looks like in a fresh bed. Satisfying. Real happy with that. I really enjoyed this project when I put this surge tank in. The short lines to the bulkhead. Beachworks did a really good job making that bulkhead. And first things first, we gotta see if it works now. Check the tune and then party. But we need to, we got other stuff to get. We gotta get some parts before we can do that. Well, we got ourselves a toolbox. This is actually better than what I was thinking. The one I was gonna get originally was like not wide enough to go all the way across, but whereas this is a 36. This actually is freaking perfect for what we're trying to do here. This is gonna be sick for a lot of reasons. It's a multi-purpose type deal, you know? You might be wondering why are we putting a toolbox in a race street truck, but it'll make sense, I promise. But first things first, we gotta modify it before I hack up this toolbox I just bought. I wanna make sure it roughly fits in here. That's step one. Yeah, it's almost not going to cover the holes too. I had a whole plan for that, thinking that we were going to have to get one that covered the holes. So it's not going to go in the center here. I know it's going to drive someone's OCD nuts. Mine too a little bit, but it's going to be offset to the driver's side, which the downside is weight-wise, driver's side. You'd want it to be on the other side. I'm calling. But in our case, it has to be on the driver's side because it's dual purpose. Number one, the main priority is to protect the surge tank setup. If you got something that flies over here and breaks one of these fittings or something, that's, you know, I think one could consider that sketchy. It's definitely sketchy, you know? And the times I have used the bed with it in here, that was always a concern. So I planned initially on just building a little enclosure back here, but then I thought, man, that definitely screams race truck. It being by itself screams race truck. Why not just put a dang toolbox over top of it? So the idea is we're going to drop the toolbox down onto it. So it'll be inside the toolbox. But then we're going to partition off where it fits inside the toolbox. And then we still have the whole toolbox. And then from the outside looking in, you know, it'll just look like a little all-around, all-purpose truck. Got a toolbox in the back. No one's going to be the wiser. I mean, obviously with the drag pack, pretty obvious. This thing's probably maybe rally, but with the street wheels, it'll look like just a lowered, you know, daily cruise around truck with a toolbox. Let's get to work. So step one is for us to create a cardboard template. Now I used to be Mr. No Template guy. Why would I make something twice? But now I am a firm believer in cardboard templates. Makes their life way easier. So started trimming up this piece, cut it to shape, kind of the initial measurement, just to have a little bit of room and we need to know exactly how far left and right this is going to be. So that edge is important, all of that. So I started cutting it and trimming it and trying to get it to fit just right. And the better the template fits, the better the end product. So one thing I usually will do on a complicated template like this that I'm kind of tracing and trimming is once I get it where I want it, usually there's somewhere I maybe need to add back. So I'll just do a new template and add in those changes there. So that way we have just a nice, fresh, clean template, not a template that's been hacked up 100 times, because it just, again, it makes a big difference when the time comes to cut it. So we've got our template fit. Now it's a matter of cutting out this bottom of this toolbox. Kind of definitely a little painful. Cut out a brand new toolbox, but we got to do what we got to do. It's for the truck, So one thing that's tricky about this is it's kind of a complicated shape. There's curves, there's straight lines, there's intricate sections. So we got to use the jigsaw. So we had to drill those starter holes to basically get in there with the jigsaw and work it in. But the goal is to make this look like you can't even tell that the surge tank's bolted to the bed floor and not the toolbox, but then the toolbox is removable. That's it. That's it, dude. So I gotta drill a hole for the wires. But we've also got to make our enclosure for our enclosure. That's pretty cool looking though, I gotta say. It's like a hide a surge tank. So I started working on marking out our cuts and our bends, and I had to use a template to get that angle right for it to tuck up in there nice, but everything else is just a square measurement. So it's not too complicated, too tricky, but it is a large piece, so I definitely don't want to have to do it twice. I prefer to get it done once. So it really comes down to it's important how you lay out your bends and your cut lines, and then sticking to those cut lines. It's one thing to mark a straight line. It's another thing to cut it. So once we got the main shape cut out, try to clean it up in the belt grinder. It's always tough with these large pieces and how I have my shop laid out, but we got it cleaned up enough to where it's time to do some speed holes. So I want to go ahead and just dimple die this thing. I mean, the main goal here is to keep large items from bouncing around in the toolbox and ending up at the surge tank. It's just a rough partition. So we're trying to keep the weight down. That's why we want the smaller toolbox. So we need to we need to make this piece light. Not to mention, I mean, the reality, if I'm being honest with you and myself, is this dimple dies look cool. So I tried to do a random pattern, and I would have thought I learned my lesson on this, but it's hard to make a random pattern. It's almost, you're almost better off just taking the time to measure out a non-random pattern, because I don't know, random isn't as random as it seems. To make something look truly random, it can be tricky. But regardless, it's time to dimple die this thing, and it is just pushing through this aluminum like butter compared to the 1/8" plate steel I was doing last time. it's just a toolbox. My thing's square and it's touching top and bottom, just not in the middle. That's kind of funny. Okay. Yeah, it's actually pretty square. Pretty satisfying, man, I gotta say. I wonder if this is small enough where I could 3D print a little tray. Oh my gosh, yes, yes. Man, I should have bought dimple die tools a long time ago. Trying to do them random, probably not the best call. I wanted to do less on this because this is, you know, where most of the stuff's gonna be, and more up here. Keep it lightweight. This is a race truck. You know what I'm saying? We got a race truck, but functional stuff. So anyway, yeah, weld that in, and we need to mount the box still. We got to come up with a top, I think, but let's get it welded in first. That's step one. I'm so stoked on this. This is a toolbox, nothing to see here. Just a little old me, a little old work truck. It dawned on me as I was getting ready to TIG weld this, and it was not going to be fun trying to reach in there, that I bought a kit to do aluminum MIG welding with my Fronius Transsteel 2200 here, and I haven't tried it yet. I've been waiting for the right project. So I did some test pieces. I did have some problems with some kinking with the wire, but I got those all sorted out. And now it's just a matter of learning how to use it. I mean, this is definitely a pretty thin aluminum for a MIG welding aluminum application. It's not the best, but you know, to TIG weld it, you got to get in this awkward space that's hard to get into. So I mean, you know, kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I did want to TIG weld at least one spot of it. That even so many things you go to weld, they look so easy to get to, and then you go to get in there, and when you got to get both arms in there and be able to do the pedal and stuff and be able to see what you're doing, it gets a lot tighter. So did a little TIG, back to some MIG, played around with both. It was fun. Finally get to use that. New tools. All right, well that was interesting. Definitely a new experience. I mean, I will say, it definitely doesn't put anywhere near as much heat compared to the TIG, but yeah, I mean, it's welded in, it's solid. More solid than the rest of it. I mean, you can see how much it buckles just from welding it. That was where I TIG welded it. I need to drill a hole real quick for our wires to come through. Somewhere right around here. Boom. And then we can put it in. Alright, so we're not self-tappering this thing in. This is just a little handy trick if you're doing something where you could self-tapper it in. Once you get one in, it's pretty solid. Once you get two in, it's not moving. The other one's, boom, it's mounted. Now we'll take those out. Drill out the inside holes. Drill out the bottom holes, large enough for rib nuts. Put rib nuts in, bolt it in. Holes are all in the perfect spot because they all were drilled with this thing mounted. But real quick. No, we don't get the satisfying until we bolt it. Let's finish this. Seeing it in the sun is it's like I just saw it for the first time since the paint. It's insane. Look at this thing, dude. I don't know if it's gonna come through on camera. Especially this angle, oh my goodness. The way it sparkles in the sun, mind-blowing. To see this truck looking this good. Wow, what a feeling. Yeah, the one thing we're really lacking is some daily wheels. Some OEM 22s. Whew. This thing's gonna be looking gangster. So happy to have this truck back. I missed it. Long history with this thing. Well, I've been working on what I thought would be a quick project that has not been quick. Admittedly, it's been more of a struggle. I think I kind of jinxed myself talking about the 3D printer and it being so good and no issues since I upgraded all the components and rebuilt it with the pro parts. It had been pretty flawless, but we lost our success streak. We were able to test it with this one and it works. Slid right on there like a glove. Mint. So we could commit to printing it properly out of nice material. Let's see what we got. Look at that. Look at that finish. All right, moment of truth. Like I said, the other one fit, gave me confidence, but it was also falling apart, so I kind of eyeballed these. I mean, it's on there. Pretty satisfying. So, you know, if we need to work on the fuel system, you just pull it up out of the way. Pretty satisfying little piece. I mean, it would have been great if my printer was large enough to make it full size. So speaking of organizers, now that that's done, picked up this one. So this is specifically for a toolbox and it fits. It goes in there, it sits there, but it's just a little bit too short. So we basically need to make it as long as we can so it doesn't fall in, but not too long that we can't get it in. Which we could either make out of, you know, say aluminum, would be the easy way bolted on, or we could, you know, maybe I'm going a little 3D print crazy, design something that fills in these gaps, panel bond it in, and then make it like it's one piece, pop it in, which, of course, that's what I'm gonna do. My original plan really was to just bolt some aluminum extensions on here and move on, but I thought, you know, I could probably whip something up quick that slides in here, pops in nice and tight, and then, you know, is uniform. And I mean, my best excuse to take the extra time to do this was that the aluminum would, you know, scratch and scrape and make noises or something. That's kind of what I was thinking. So basically got to design this to fit around all those ridges, and it's going to be a little tricky because if any one of them's off, it's not going to work. But if we get it right, it'll be pretty cool. Now, the tricky part with 3D printing stuff, designing stuff like this is you want to ideally print one, make sure it works before you go crazy and, you know, properly print it. But we ain't got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. We're just going to print it and hope that it works and that we got it right. So unfortunately, my printer being too small yet again, I had to break them into 2 pieces each. So it's like one side and the other side, 4 total pieces. And we're just going to go for it and try to print them all at once. Now, again, we should probably just print one and check it. But, you know, again, we don't got time for that. I'm trying to get this done, trying to see the results. I'm trying to move on. And while this is printing, we can work on the other stuff we got to work on. So got it printing, made sure it was off to a good start, you know, made sure it was rolling. And now it's time to get back to some other projects on the truck while we wait for that to finish up, because we still got quite a few things that I want to do and knock out now that the truck's back in our hands. So one of those main things being the AC. I noticed this valve was leaking, and of course it's not serviceable factory. It's the factory line. You got to replace it, but the new one does have a straighter valve, so it'd make it easier if it does leak in the future. But the other thing is, while all this Freon's out of here and has leaked out, we might as well tackle this other high pressure switch problem. Basically, the new style compressor we're using uses a pressure sensor, not a switch, that goes on the line. The old style, what the truck's set up for, is a pressure switch that goes in the back of the compressor. Now, fortunately, the compressor does have a spot for a switch to go in the back of it, just like the old compressor. So theoretically, we could use the same stock high pressure switch that works with this truck, harness, ECU, all of that. However, it's, you know, in the Freon. So if you were to just take it out and the truck's full of Freon, it would just leak all the Freon out. So now's the time to do it. However, I really hoped that I could get this switch out without taking the compressor out, but unfortunately, one of those things had to pull it out. Only way. At least it wasn't too bad to take out. I just couldn't. I could, you know, and I could have maybe got it. Not try to take the easy way, and you end up fighting more than if you just took the extra steps. You know, I'm bad about it. I think we all are bad about that. I mean, I'm sure some people aren't, but it's easy to be like, nah, I don't want to take the compressor out. I'll just fudge around with this thing until I can get the snap ring out, but. Not 100% sure where the connector needs to come from, but did it. Now all we got to do is just toss this thing back in, which usually is the easier side of the process. Sometimes it's not, but at least you know what you need. You've got the right combination of tools out, this extension, a wobble here, this ratchet here, and usually, at least, it goes a little quicker tossing it back in than it is to take it back out. So I wasn't too worried about it, but as I tried to plug in this sensor, unfortunately, it doesn't plug in. It's not the right plug. I was just baffled because I had found this switch that would thread on to the line like the newer style, but was a switch, you know, not a sensor, and was supposed to have the right polarity and stuff, but it didn't, so it wasn't going to work. So I thought maybe I switched the connector. I don't know, but I need to get this switch back out and take a good look at it and see what's going on here. So I've got a pretty limited selection of snap ring pliers, so I went so far as to buy a nice set of snap ring pliers, which I did need anyway, but just so I could try to get this dang thing out without pulling the compressor back out, because of course hooking up the switch was the last thing I did and everything else was on. But it's you know, sometimes you got to bail out because you're gonna waste more time, and I just went and pulled the compressor back out yet again so I can take the switch out, take it back to the store, and get the right one. I did remember that the old switch that was in the old compressor was a red connector. You know, I remembered that. I couldn't find the switch. I don't know if I didn't save it. It just went with the compressor. I don't know. But if it was a color between purple and red, it was red. So pretty confident this is the solution. This is the right switch. It lists for this same year. I was not the right switch, as it turns out. Well, at least the connector wasn't right. Not even close. And I couldn't even find a connector that seemed like it was going to work online. So I just was like, wait a second, this is a race truck. Kind of. Might as well just do race car stuff. So what I did is I found some pins that fit on nice. I heat shrunk them, put them in, and then we're going to use encapsulating compound to seal up where they go into the switch, where the connector would be. And then I've got those running to a 2-pin Deutsch connector, race car stuff, race car connectors. Now I'm a fuss with stock connectors. I cannot stand stock connectors. I like wiring. I like messing with connectors and stuff, but not stock ones. So now we're fancy. Race truck. Oh boy, that was a process. I resorted to Deutsch connectors. Connector, boom, race car stuff, race truck. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna plug those in, I gotta put the belt back on, check my work, and then we're partying, hopefully. Man, gosh, definitely frustrating one. For sure, definitely did not expect to spend most of the day messing with that. Definitely did, but here we are. Hopefully we're at the end of the road. Let's get back to it. Looking for this dang connector earlier. I was going to try to modify this one to fit. I was getting desperate. But these are my new AC gauges. They played me. They don't show that they don't come with the dang hoses. It's okay though. At least I have hoses. Try this out. So one of the neat things with this is it has temperature probes. You clamp, by the high side and by the low side. I'm just so tired of my inaccurate gauges and just enough in it at this temperature to stay running and not hit the low cutoff. Added input so that way I'll know when the AC clutch is on. One thing I think this thing could stand is blower motor change or something. It just doesn't blow that hard. I don't know if I'm just spoiled by the newer vehicles, but let's see what we get our temperatures to. I mean, we're already in the blue. Sweet. One thing I do need to do is play with the tune a little bit. I have it set up to increase RPM when the clutch kicks on, but I need to make it a little more dramatic. Well, I think we are all good to go now. I do want to heat insulate these lines. We really need to get a turbo blanket. I'll probably order one tonight because that's definitely not going to help anything. But I have some gold tape, so I might as well heat wrap those lines. But yeah, definitely high pressure switch working. That's good. That's a relief. That was kind of my, one of those things. Silver lining of having to change that valve was that I could change that, put the high pressure switch in. Biggest struggle of all, switching them, and man, yeah, that was, but now we got race car stuff, race truck stuff. So anyway, moving on. I need to get our printed parts down. I hope they fit, I'm confident, but probably shouldn't be because then they won't fit. Get them panel bonded on, clamped, race truck stuff. So anyway, let's go get these down. And yeah, see if they fit. Like I said, that's, step one. But hopefully all is well with that. Gauges worked. Moving on. All right, let's see here. This side, this. Oh man, we definitely don't need panel bond. I don't think. That goes in nice and tight. I ain't going nowhere. All right, let's check this one. Should be a tiny gap between them just because that's the way I drew them up. Oh, that is beautiful. I mean, that's pretty cool, man. Oh, I love this. So satisfying. I can hold it upside down. I mean, the load's obviously also on the bottom. They more or less hold themselves in, but wow. Dude, I just can't get over it. It's just funny because I tried to learn Fusion way back in the day. My buddy Garrett, who's a phenomenal machinist now, gave me the basics, the rundown, and I started playing with it on my own, but I just never would invest enough time into it to really get the hang of it. And I've still got a long way to go, but being able to just draw something like that up and it fit as tight as it did, especially like the angle of this one, that one was kind of tricky to measure, guesstimate. That's sick. That's nicer. Oh yeah, look at money in the bank, dude. Yeah. Here a little bit. Beautiful. And you fit basically the jack, tool bags, and let's see where we're at, if all that fits. All our on-the-go tools, like everything. That's what I bring to Drift Week. So those two bags. Could probably add in some consumable type parts, but more or less this is the bulk of it. We gotta put the jack in first. Oh, that's funny. I did not plan for that. I wish I could take credit, but I didn't. It just worked out. So now we got our little mini organizer. It looks so small in comparison. Now we got our large organizer, and we got our tool bags and the jack. That's a lot of stuff to fit in a relatively dry, secured area. Look at that. Look at that. So satisfying. Oh, it makes me happy. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that one. Boom. All right. And we still got room to spare. I mean, if we weren't doing the organizer, we could pile a lot more stuff on top of there if we want to. I just would like to have the organizer in here with kind of the basic stuff that stays with the truck, even if you don't have the full kit, you know. But we still got some room over here. So our room there-ish. Organizer. Anyway. All right. Moving on. Heat's leaving these lines is one of those things that I keep forgetting about until I'm driving the truck around and I got the AC on, and then I pop the hood to look at something and notice how much heat is kind of just emanating around these lines. And this heat sleeve Velcro stuff, this is Mishimoto brand. This stuff works phenomenally well because it's a lot thicker than generally the gold tape, and you just Velcro it around the lines. So it's a little bit on the large side, you know. It fits perfect for the larger line. It's a little bulky on the small line, but with heat shielding stuff, having an air gap really is kind of a good thing. So all in all, should work out. All right, lines are done. That should work well to keep the heat down on those. Probably tape up the dryer, but we're gonna have to take our time on that, be a little more calculated. Looks pretty cool though, honestly. I gotta admit. For now, we got some heat protection on the lines. Just need to get a turbo blanket and we should be partying. Ice cold. That's the key. So, yeah, there's going to be more to come on this thing. Now that it's painted, I'm just eager to start enjoying it. You know, like this is something that drives me nuts. This charge pipe, I want to redo this. I mean, the pie cuts. It was my pie cut era. That's not the worst of it. I just don't like the shape of the pipe. It's silly. Doesn't make sense. It's unnecessary. I don't like that it's 3-inch going into the throttle body. I'd like to bump it up somewhere back here, give us a little more room. This thing's really tight, and then go up to 3.5-inch and then into the throttle body. To me, this is like the largest eyesore in the engine bay, which is saying something because we still got the stock truck intake, which is another one of those things. Part of me wants to get rid of it, go to a nice high ram, clean it up, valve covers, remote coils, make it real nice and pretty. But the other part of me likes having cruise control. It's the whole reason I kept the stock truck intake was cruise control, and we have it and it works. So it's a tough one, you know. It's that street truck, race truck, show truck. You're balancing. It's always compromising. It's all you're doing. It's compromising. So I don't know. Let me know. What do you think? Should we sacrifice some street functionality for more engine bay aesthetics? I mean, we will have a lot to do in that department to clean up the stock engine harness wiring and all that. I don't know. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below. But for now, yeah, we're out of time. Like, realistically, even if we had the thing, we're out of time. So I don't know why I even bother mentioning it. We got more to do next time. Oh, another thing, larger turbo. Definitely got to do that. I think if we're going to do that, I kind of want to chop the wastegates off, put one gate on the housing, and then recircuit into the exhaust. We can have stealth mode and this thing be quiet, because right now when the gates open, you're hearing me from the town over. It gets so loud. But if we recircuit into the exhaust, then it's got to go all the way out to here through our giant diesel muffler. So it'd be pretty quiet. But if we want to make it sound rowdy, we want to enjoy the spy we're racing, whatever the case, we can do a cutout. So then it's just overall louder. So big old turbo, lots of power, noises versus no noises. Anyway, there's stuff to do. Daily wheels, 100%. Really want to do that. So anyway, I could jibber jabber on and on. Thanks for hanging out with me for this one. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And I'll see you for the next one. We got lots of stuff going on, man. Trailer stuff, shop stuff, multiple builds, golf cart. We got all kinds of projects going on. We're freaking projects oozing out the ears, and they're all fun and exciting, at least for me. So I'll see you guys for all that. But for now, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. I got to say it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Goodbye.